How's it going, everyone? I'm Brian Knight. I am not Bobby Durkins, at least not here. I'm going to go over week one, Friday night, which is today, the games that will be going on tonight. Last night, we had some really interesting games. Utah manhandled Florida. We saw Minnesota barely beat Nebraska with first-year head coach Matt Rhule. And we saw NC State, who was a 17-point favorite, struggle at first with UConn. I could get into that a little later, but let's talk about the games that are going on tonight. Before I go any farther, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It is free. Also, if you want to join and support the show, there should be a join button down there, so it should be appearing there. Also, if you want to support with the super thanks, go for it. I do appreciate it. So in the chat section, I've included FBSschedules.com 2023 college football schedule. And tonight, you really don't have amazing games. Spoiler alert, I'm going to go over some of the scores from last night. But I'll go over the games tonight. Howard and Eastern Michigan, 6:30 on ESPN+. Who cares? Miami of Ohio at Miami, Florida. I remember when I was a little boy, and I was like, oh, Miami's playing and getting let down to find out there was a Miami of Ohio. Oh, my God. But to see the two Miamis get together, that'll be interesting. Central Michigan and Michigan State get together at 7 o'clock. The Miami Square game is at 7 o'clock on the ACC network. The game of the night, Louisville versus Georgia Tech. Now, of course, Georgia Tech's head coach, I think it's Brent Key. Is that his name? I can't remember right off the top of my head. He took over midseason last year. Louisville has a brand new head coach. Brian Brohm returns home. Maybe he'll give that same award-winning speech that he gave when he was in the XFL. That'll be an interesting game. Then you got Missouri State at Kansas and Stanford at Hawaii, 11 p.m. 11 p.m. on the CBS Sports Network. So I'll go over the lines for these games. It's always fun to look at the lines and then, of course, see how the games actually turn out. Sometimes they're very close. Sometimes they're kind of off. So I'll start with the game of the evening, Louisville and Georgia Tech. As of right now, Louisville is a 7.5-point favorite. Even though the game is in Atlanta, I think it's Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is it? Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, it is. It is. And Louisville is an interesting team. You know, when I think of Louisville, it's crazy. I remember in the early 2000s that big game on a Thursday night when they beat Florida State. And that was a really interesting game. And then later on, the team grew. Of course, Michael Bush, the top running back that ended up going to Louisville. But the days that they were really, really kicking it was with Bobby Petrino. I remember the year that Clemson went to the national championship and lost it the first time with Deshaun Watson. That was the year that Clemson played like the third toughest schedule in the country. They had to play against Louisville and Lamar Jackson. That was a good football team. In the Valley, went down to the last play. Heroic defensive stop by Clemson. It was the same year that Notre Dame and Clemson played in the Hurricane game. It was just raining so hard. It was ridiculous. The question is, can Louisville come back? Now, they had Satterfield up there. You got to remember when Satterfield took over, The program had went from the top of the mountain all the way into the toilet bowl. It wasn't even in the valley. It was in the toilet bowl. And so for him to do what he's done over the past, however long he was there, now he moves on to Cincinnati, which is kind of odd. I mean, there's some people that's still taking pot shots at him, but I still think he's a good coach. It's going to be interesting to see Brian Brohm take over this team. He was at Purdue. He did some good things there. He never got them to where they were just this dominant force, but it's been a while since Purdue has been a dominant force. So with that particular game, I'm still leaning towards Louisville to beat Georgia Tech. I just don't see Georgia Tech beating them. It really doesn't make sense. Now, I'm going to move on to the other games. Then I'm going to talk about some of the scores from last night. Michigan State and Central Michigan playing. This game's at Michigan State, and they're a 14-point favorite. Most likely they're going to win the game, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that Central Michigan could play them a little better than what everybody expected. The Miami Hurricanes. Now, to me, and I know some people are going to go, what? This doesn't make sense. If Miami is actually progressing, and remember, a snail progresses as well. A snail moves so slow, but it still moves. If Miami Hurricanes, if they are actually getting better, they're a 17-point favorite against Miami of Ohio. In my opinion, this should not be a struggle bus game for them. I know in years past, Miami of Ohio has produced some players here and there, maybe had a decent team here and there. If the U is actually getting better, they should win this game in a commanding fashion. Pick the Miami Hurricanes to win the game. Stanford and Hawaii. Wow. What a terrible game. Stanford is a 3-point favorite in that game. Remember, this will tell you how bad Stanford is. Vanderbilt was a 17-point favorite over Hawaii. Yeah, use that as your barometer of excellence or lack thereof. All right, so let's talk about the games from last night, the scores from last night. Utah handled Florida, and I might even do a separate video on that. Utah actually did quite well with Florida. I was highly concerned that Utah was going to – I just thought they were going to flake out. They had no business losing to Florida last year. Well, Anthony Richardson, I could care less. I think he's a great athlete, but as a quarterback, I think he's overrated. And that they took the shot downfield on the first play, that was a big deal to me. NC State had problems with UConn at first. And I'm going to tell you right now, Brennan Armstrong, that type of quarterback, he's going to run and sacrifice his body and stuff. A quarterback like that who cannot throw the ball incredibly well and doesn't have this outrageous wide receiver unit to catch the errant passes or go out and make something happen. He doesn't fare too well against teams like, I don't know, Clemson. But the Pack got it done. Minnesota beats Nebraska by 3 points. Yet another Nebraska team that loses a game by single digits. I saw that somewhere, and I was like, holy crap, that's true. Trent Dilfer taking over as head coach down at University of Alabama, Birmingham. UAB played North Carolina A&T 135-6. You say, why did I bring it up? Yeah, it's just odd that Trent Dilfer is the head coach down there. UCF absolutely murdering Kent State. Daddy-O said Florida had trouble completing screen passes. Yeah, I was actually having to work last night on a prior obligation, and I had the phone. I had my phone on watching the game, and my phone glitched. I don't know how it happened, but there was like it was lag behind, and I joined live and all that. I have a YouTube TV, and it was ridiculous. Florida's still on the field, and I look away for a second and come back, and it's Utah kicking a field goal, a PAT, and I'm like, what happened? I love it. That shot they took down, that shot that Florida took downfield, that was a big boy shot. And in fact, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this video because this video is about week 1 college football Friday night. I'm going to end this video. I'm going to start another video to review the Utah and Florida game, talk a little bit about it. Folks, thank you for joining me. If you're brand new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications. It's free. Also, if you want to support the channel with a super thanks or whether the join button, join. It's very, very affordable. I do appreciate your support. I just appreciate you being here. Folks, it's the best time of the year is college football. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you on this other video in just a moment.